Miami's on fire, or so they tell us. This is a town that's all about hyperbole. With this show, we try to cut through it, and we give you this straight talk. Typically, it's tongue-in-cheek. We're going to do a little bit of a pivot again. Second week in a row. Why are we pivoting? Because we're talking about the very serious, critical issue of Haitian TPS, temporary protective status, and all of our brethren, all of our neighbors who might possibly be facing very unquestionable and a very untimely and a very uncertain type of future because of what's going on up in Washington. So we're going to get into it today. I'm Peter Zalewski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club, registered independent. Parents came over and the grandparents came over, 1890s, Ellis Island, independent, got that background. That's going to be the perspective I'm talking about. Let me introduce my co-host, my partner. That is commercial real estate over at Lee & Associates. Right. Nobody else but Oscar Musabe. He's also an expert in Dungeons & Dragons. So anybody has any Dungeons & Dragons question, give Oscar a call. What's going on, Mr. Musabe?
786-348-9257. And I'm a commercial agent focused on the office sector, even though I do retail. Maybe I sneak in a warehouse here and there. But definitely office is my expertise. We have a few buildings for sale. 786-348-9257. If you need office space, shrink or grow, I'm there for you.
Oscar, before you get started, give us your pedigree. Were you born and raised in Miami?
I was born in Cuba.
Born in Cuba, okay.
And I grew up in Hialeah.
Hialeah, yep.
If you see Grant Miller today, he's wearing a T-shirt that says, I love Hialeah. Hialeah has a huge impact on Miami, and I was fortunate enough to go to a Catholic middle school, Catholic high school.
You couldn't tell by the way you curse, let me tell you.
It's true. You know why? Because I'm hanging around with the wrong people. Because I have the wrong partner. I think that's what it is. But today we are very fortunate because, again, we get to touch on a very important issue in our community. And our community is really diverse, and that's what makes us so
54%
special.
54% of Miami-Dade County foreign born. If you get invited to dinner, yes, Oscar, and I would never invite you because I'm not paying for you.
Never.
54% of Miami-Dade County foreign born according to U.S. Census Bureau.
Incredible.
1 out of every 2 people you talk to in this town was born somewhere else. And you know what happens? They come here, we come here, and we make it happen. This is why all your brethren's coming. This is why Mark Zuckerberg,
that's right,
Facebook, he's coming here.
My buddy, my golf
That's
buddy.
Why Alex Karp, Palantir,
he's
coming.
He's another
Ken
buddy.
Griffin. Ken Griffin.
Ken Griffin. Yep.
He is here.
Kenny.
Everybody wants to be
Kenny.
here.
You know, he lets me call him Kenny.
We should let you call him.
We're on the golf course.
But everybody's coming here. Why? They're not coming here because it's just monotone and boring. Coming here because of the diversity.
Yes.
I would argue. They're coming here because of the energy.
That's
They're
right.
coming here because of what makes this community so special. Guy called Tom Wolfe.
Yes.
Famous American author.
Mm-hmm.
His last book, Back to Blood.
Yes.
Based on Miami. He's got all these key characters trying to tell you how Miami works. Crucial character in the book is somebody living in Little Haiti. Haitian descent. We have Cuban descent in there. We have the gringo. We have everybody in there. This is what makes our community special, and right now it's under attack.
It's under attack.
It's under attack, not by anything we're doing, but by what I guess a slight majority decided when they voted back in 2 years ago or so. And now everything we know is getting ripped up. It's getting tossed out, and we got to try to make the best of it. More importantly, we got to protect our brethren is what I would say. The people in our community, our neighbors, we got to protect them. And I think that's why we're going back to back discussing this topic, which is of utmost importance.
And today we're fortunate enough to have Emanuela here today, and I want her to introduce herself. She's the president of the Haitian Lawyers Association. Welcome, welcome.
What's your billable? You got to tell us what the billable rate is going in.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to come and to speak with you all. This is going to be a great time. I can already sense it. Like you said, my name is Emanuela Telfort. I'm an immigration attorney. I'm also a Social Security disability attorney. I'm the managing attorney of Telfort Law Firm. And I'm the president of the Haitian Lawyers Association, and I'm super proud to be able to sit with you all and just to share a little bit about what we're doing and who we are and our feeling about, what's happening currently.
We got to get your pedigree, though. Born and raised in Miami?
I am born and raised in Miami.
Well done.
Miami.
Well done.
This is home.
That's it.
This
You're
is
a native.
Home. I am a native.
That's it.
High school? Where'd you go to high school?
Miami Senior High School.
Over there on Flagler and 27th.
Listen, that was my town. That's my little area.
That's
with
it.
the pastelito.
Yeah.
Ray's Pizza, I think, is right across the street. You go in there. They still do a breakfast. You get a full breakfast up till 11 o'clock. I think it's $5.99.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that.
Yes.
And whenever you think about like growing up and you have these like experiences in these different, small mom and pop shops, that's what makes like your city your home, right?
That's right.
That's like what makes it a hometown.
And thank you for having us here. Born and raised in Chicago, came down here in 1993. Oscar was born in Havana.
That's right.
He came over.
Yeah.
You are you're born and raised.
That's
We're
right.
the
Hometown.
visitors.
Your hometown.
So
We're the
thank you for
immigrants.
having us.
You know what? And okay, yes, you're welcome, but we make this beautiful, right? We make Miami the place that everyone wants to visit.
all his boys, Mark Zuckerberg, all of them. Larry
That's
Page
right.
from Google, he loves all those
I'm
boys.
trying to get him into D&D. So far, I haven't been successful.
I want to see Larry Page dress up in one of these outfits in Dungeons and Dragons.
That's
boy.
right.
Oh,
that
boy.
would be fun.
Oh boy.
So you're here today because we wanted to talk about the 158,000 Haitians in Florida that are now vulnerable to deportation because temporary protected status has been eliminated, and there was an extension through tomorrow, correct?
The 24th of
Oh,
July.
is it the 24th? Okay.
And that's the work permit, right?
Mhm.
So what USCIS did after the July 10th D-Day, if you will, because I know Vice Mayor Cassandra was here.
Yes, from North Miami.
From North
Yep,
Miami,
that was
right,
last week.
Right,
Yep.
that was last week. And so I think around 12:30 that day, they dropped the new notice that the employment authorization document that TPS holders have will extend until July the 24th. So in theory, they have 2 more weeks to work. How does that make sense? I'm not sure, but that's the thought process of this administration.
Right.
That's being very generous thought process.
Yeah.
Very generous.
The key here is to think about what's been going on in the country for the last 18 months. The idea that in places like Minnesota, you have the most intense scrutiny of the type of enforcement that's been happening, where people are being kidnapped from the streets, right? Disappeared into places where reporters can't get in, where Congress people can't get in, where their own families can't even find them because they don't even know where they are. So what we're talking about here is that a significant part of our community potentially could face that same future, where you have people disappeared, parents, kids potentially. And the idea
there are cars left in the middle of the street, their keys, everything is just sit there, and then that's not our problem. We're just going to grab these people. We're going to disappear them. We're going to come out with masks. We're going to jump out of a van. And we're going to grab them. They were taking them to Alligator Alcatraz, which was a pop-up detention center about 50 miles due west of Brickell City Center. Brickell and Cayocho, 8th Street, 50 miles due west. They're taking them and then dumping them there in the middle of the Everglades. It doesn't make any sense. Where's the compassion? Why does everything have to be so mean? Why can't we simply deal with the situation? This is a paperwork process. These people aren't out committing crimes. These people are working.
I think there's a misunderstanding to some degree as to the policy and how it's executed, because many of the people that are being taken and put into these detention centers are actually here legally. Because what's happened is that the federal government decided that people that were going through asylum, that were going to see the person who was overseeing their case, whether it was a TPS case or something else, that they would revoke their status, and as a result, they became here illegally. They were here illegally.
So they moved the goalposts.
That's right.
They don't like the rules, so they move the goalposts.
In the mid-game. So what we're trying to find out, and thank you again, Emanuela, for coming today, is...
You got to excuse me, a little winded.
What is the impact of this policy on Haitians in Miami, but also on your members, and how can your members help fielding all these calls? Because I would imagine people are just decimated, frightened for their minds that their kids are going to be without them, no one to take care of them. What is the organization doing to help this population, to help Haitians who are your family, our family, right?
Our neighbors who take care of our moms, who build our houses, who do everything in our community. What is the organization doing?
So that's a two-folder, and I want to talk about, the
Tony's
impact. No, because it's just such a multifaceted issue, right?
Yeah.
You just can't say that, well, we're going to go ahead and terminate this program and laissez-faire, everybody go on with their life. That's not how it works. That's not logical, right? And that's not even a lawyer saying it's not logical. I think any person would understand that this isn't logical. So to your point, right now, people are scared out of their minds. They're not sure what's going to happen, right? From the standpoint of, well, what about my assets? Some of these individuals bought homes. They bought cars, right? They have real estate, right? They have Social Security benefits, disability benefits, right? That once they lose status, they will not be able to access that. Retirement. Stocks, right?
Crypto.
All of those things that they legitimately earned, right? And so folks are not really sure what to do. And I understand that without question. I think anybody with sense could understand that. How do you justify shutting off this status, shutting off their ability to work, then they aren't able to maintain their livelihood? Let's go even further. What about mixed families, right? Where you've got a parent who was on TPS, but they were able to have a child here in the States and who's a minor now. Who takes care of that child if, for one reason or the other, they go to put gas in their car and ICE decides to collect them because they've been profiled as an immigrant? What happens then, right? So all of these issues, we're talking about mental, right? We're talking about that trauma. And that trauma can be vicarious trauma, where although I may be, for lack of a better word, safe because I have status, but then I'm living with somebody who is traumatized left and right, don't want to step out their door to go buy basic things like groceries or pick up their kid from school, right? So everyone is just affected. I'll go further. What about the elderly that are being cared by, Haitians, or I don't even use the word Haitian, TPS recipients, right?
Sure.
Because not all elderly are being taken care of by Haitians. They're taken care of by anybody who's in that
Cubans,
space. Exactly.
It's a big mix.
What about their dependency on their healthcare provider, that individual that serves them? I had this one individual tell me, and I'm going to get to your question, Oscar, but I do want to just share
Take
this.
Your time.
He said to me, he's like, my aide, she calls after her shift is over. She calls me every night at 9 p.m. Every night she calls me because he says to me, I live alone. So every night she calls me at 9 p.m. to make sure that I'm okay. Well, one night, she didn't call me. Her son called me and called me to say, hi, Mr. So-and-so. My mom is taking a shower right now, but I just wanted to call and see how you're doing. Can you imagine? That individual has become part of this person's life.
Yes.
And now that individual may have to realize that they're going to live a life without this person out of the blue. It isn't fair. And that I will submit to you, that elderly individual may suffer from vicarious trauma. For the sake of any moment, any point in time, my aide, someone who has been my right-hand man or woman, may just disappear. And I don't know where she is or where, he is. And
you're not going to get information
either. And you won't get any information. So that is the big issue on the ground. The association, we understand this all too well, right? And not all of the members of the association, we're talking about over 290 members, are immigration attorneys, right? However, we have a foundation and we have members who have said, you know what, count me in. And so when the Supreme Court's decision came about on June 25th, we launched a 90-day response. And, this response was specifically towards providing services to individuals who may not be able to, at the inception, bring in and hire a private attorney. And so this 90-day response looks like pro bono consultation, free consultations, right? You send a text message, and I'll provide that number to you all and to the individuals who are listening, because we want you, right? We want you to call us. We want you to have that opportunity to sit with someone who is competent, who knows what they're talking about, to explore any potential pathway you may have, right? And so, and that's what we've been doing. I think we're probably up since we launched this initiative. Maybe over 200 individuals have contacted our office to request consultations. And, I take the consultation separate and apart from my firm. Right? It's free. You're going to get me and we're going to talk about your case. I had a few this morning and I'll have a few this afternoon after our time together, because I understand that individuals need to know what can they do. Mm-hmm. Right? And they sometimes just can't afford it. Mm-hmm. So, not only are we doing these pro bono consultations, there are certain services that we provide for free as well. Mm-hmm. Right? So like something called a FOIA, mm-hmm. Freedom of Information Act, right? That's a federal statute that allows for anybody to request documents related to themselves. And that's important, Oscar, because some individuals who've been in this country since 2010 and before, right, have had some exchange with the immigration system, and they may not know exactly where they stand. And so it's super important for folks nowadays to know where they stand, mm-hmm. so that the attorney can best prepare a strategy, if you will. And so we provide that service for free. Mm-hmm. Certain motions to terminate, we provide that as well for free. So mm-hmm. It's, again, super important for the conversation to be had. The attorneys do speak Creole, and so there's no reason why individuals shouldn't seek out the services of the organization. Mm-hmm. As president of the organization, I said this is something that must be done, and I'm so grateful that the board supported me on it, and that's what we've been doing since the June 25th decision.
Can I ask a series of just rapid fire questions?
Yeah, let's go.
Just to help everybody understand the real logistics.
Yeah.
Okay, so your organization, you said close to 300.
About
300 members. It's all in Miami-Dade County. It's in Tri-County, South Florida.
Tri-County. We have attorneys all over the state of Florida.
And everybody who's in it, are they all of Haitian descent, or is it just people who are just thrown in and they're fighting the cause?
So we have
fighting for the cause.
We have Haitian attorneys who are born in Haiti. We have attorneys who are born in the States, and we have friends of the organization who want to become members too. So there's no hard press that you have to be Haitian to be a member.
So anybody watching or listening who can sort of relate can call up, and if you guys can't know them directly, I'm assuming you probably can refer them
That's
out.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. So related to that, so people came in 2010. There's a bad earthquake, everybody. If you're not aware of it, there was an earthquake in Haiti, basically leveled Port-au-Prince, hit other parts. They haven't rebuilt.
Unfortunately.
So if you got temporary protective status, whether it was Hurricane Mitch in 1998 that came rolling through, and a lot of people from Central America, they all came up here because it was a devastating situation. Typically, once everything is resolved, then you're able to go back. They haven't resolved the situation in Haiti. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They don't even have an elected government. Yeah. They had people from Kenya on the ground trying to maintain some sort of normalcy, if you can say that, in Haiti, but the gangs are running it. You can't fly into Port-au-Prince because the gangs are shooting at airlines. And this is rhetorical. How the heck are you going to send people back to a situation that's probably worse today than it was in 2010 when the protective status was originally put in place? Yeah. So I'm getting that timeline right. All of that is so far correct.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody's watching this, and maybe their parent goes out for gasoline, whatever. They get stopped. What do they have to say? What do they have to present when questioned by somebody with a mask, doesn't identify themselves? What are they legally required to do? And then once it proceeds, walk us through the process, like in the trench type of process. So anybody watching it, maybe one of the relatives is aware of it. Is there a window? You got to do this within a certain period of time. You got to do that. You got to do this. Can you walk them through the entire process?
Yeah. So that's a mixed bag.
Okay.
Right? Because it just really depends on so many factors.
Well, let's just take the situation. You're out getting gasoline, and all of a sudden some guys come rolling in. You don't know what the hell they're saying because the accent or whatever, and I'm being stereotypical here because that's exactly who I see doing this. They start asking you questions. Do you have to respond? Like there is a Fifth Amendment in the United States. Yeah, you don't have to answer anything. You give them your ID, you do whatever you do, and you mum.
Would I advise someone to be aggressive with individuals who believe that they have the law enforcement powers? And the answer to that is no. Because we've seen time and time again in the news, U.S. citizens being gunned down.
Right? Executed. Right.
Okay, so I am a citizen of this country, and I am an attorney, and I would not be aggressive. And I have the law in my hands, if you will. I would not be aggressive. So
But the legal system works slow.
The legal system works slow, and just the legal system works slow, but the aggression can be very fast.
Yes.
So in you trying to exercise your right, you may lose your life. Whereas if and some people may have a difference of opinion. I just think from what we're seeing on TV, it just would make sense to exercise a little bit of patience and understand that some of these law enforcement individuals had not really gone through the training necessary. They were just given a gun and
a quota.
And now they're out in the street wreaking havoc, right? And so I would not advise anyone to be aggressive. I think obviously you have a constitutional right to remain silent, and you should.
And that right applies regardless of your legal status.
You're in this country, you have a right to remain silent. Yes.
It applies to you.
Right. And so if that officer is asking you, and I say that because was it because they profiled you? Was it because you actually did something that...
Well, didn't the Supreme Court say they could in fact profile you?
Right. Yeah. But we want to, make sure that we kind of like walk the line, because was it maybe because you had a taillight that was off, right? And your taillight was broken, and so you pulled into the gas station, and that gave them probable cause to kind of figure out, hey, what's going on? Your car or what have you're speeding, what have you. And so they stopped you for that reason. Okay. So we're not really sure. I think you have a right to ask the question, officer, how is there anything I can help with or what have you, and follow the steps from there. Because sometimes I think right now we're just so heightened and there's so much emotion with this. I'm very reluctant to say A, B, or C and someone misinterpret it and feel as if they are
fair enough.
Emboldened
to
maneuver.
Let's walk it through my way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm at the gas station.
Yeah.
It's 2 a.m, whatever. I wasn't drinking. I haven't been drinking for a while. I'm at the gas station. Some guys come rolling in. They start asking me questions. I'm going to be quiet. They ask me for my ID. Do I have to give them my ID?
You don't have to give them your ID.
I don't have to give them anything.
No.
Then they say, well, give us your ID. Otherwise, blah, 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 blah. So if I don't participate and if I'm not working with them, then I guess it's upon them to do whatever they're going to do.
And that's what we're seeing. Right? We're seeing that irrespective of providing
and it's a subjective decision whether or not they want to throw you in the back of a van or they want to let you pass.
It's their decision, whether it be subjective or objective. It depends on what kind of notification they receive from their back office.
Okay.
Right. And so
let's just say I don't answer anything. Whatever. I'm not saying a word. They just say, okay, this guy looks a little rough. Not as rough as Oscar, but I look a little rough. They throw me in the back of a van. Are they required to notify anybody? Can I notify?
Yeah,
are they going to take my phone? Can I text somebody?
Right.
How does that kind of work?
So they may decide to take your phone. I did hear in one case they took the gentleman's phone. He was on the phone with his daughter, and they took his phone.
Okay.
And so, but you do essentially have an opportunity to call. And so at that point, wherever they take you, whether it be any type of immigration center, processing center, you do have an opportunity to reach out to family members.
They're going to give me the right at some moment.
They have to.
They have to,
right,
but I don't know that they follow the rules, because these detention centers, as I understand it, part of the reason why they built them instead of putting individuals in jail is because it gives them more control over the environment. So you have 20 people sleeping on the floor. They don't have blankets. They have maybe aluminum foil. There's one toilet and nobody's servicing it. These are the stories that are coming out over and over and over again. And that's part of the reason why Congress people aren't allowed into these spaces, because they're not designed for people to be taken care of. They're designed for a kind of intimidation that is going to force them to get this idea in their head that they cannot stay here, right?
So then they self-deport.
Exactly.
They sign something, they take the cash, they get on a plane, and they're gone.
Even if they're even given the cash.
Right.
Even if they're, wow, okay.
Right. Even if they're even given the cash.
Which is interesting. I want to see how many of these ICE agents who signed up for the signing bonus, I want to see how many of them actually get paid, but that's another story.
The other part of it is, if individuals start getting deported, or if they're in the process of being deported, and the U.S. determines that Haiti is not a place where they can send them, they can send them anywhere. I mean, look what happened to the Venezuelans who ended up in El Salvador. There are people who were being threatened to be sent to places,
North
Africa, different places they've never been. They have no family, no resources, nothing. So it's a worst case scenario for individuals who potentially have no criminal record And then you have recent cases in Maine and Texas and elsewhere where ICE agents found the wrong person, and that wrong person ended up being killed.
Yeah.
So a lot of a lot of danger for these individuals.
26-year-old guy here legally from Colombia with his 3-year-old daughter.
Incredible.
And they shoot through the windshield.
Incredible.
Yeah, somehow that is justice. Somehow that's fair. What exactly are you collecting with that?
They're judge, jury, and executioner, which is a horrible place to be. On top of the fact that they're wearing masks in this country, so
and no video cameras on their bodies,
and no video cameras.
So you really can't even figure out whether or not they were justified in their decision.
That's right.
It was never justified.
It's never justified.
Never, ever.
That's
ever,
one of the things
justified.
that they were talking about when they expanded funding for ICE and different enforcement agencies. And senators were saying, "Oh, they're going to get body cams." They've got nothing. So we have less evidence. And you know what? That is an intent on the part of the federal government. Why is that? Because you think about what happened in Minneapolis, and there were cameras there. People were constantly seeing what was happening and how these executions took place. And then you have these places where there isn't video, so it's easier to try to move past this as quickly as possible. And then you have someone like Tom Holman who says, okay, we're going to stop the car stops. And then the president says, oh, no, we're going to continue.
Right.
So there is constant conflicting information that's coming out. There's a lack of access that is impeding any person's ability, an attorney like yourself or a church, your pastor, to try to find you.
They're moving the goalposts.
It's a horror show. And this is America today. This is America. So think about where we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when we were looking at other countries that had masked men showing up with guns at the airports, with guns everywhere, showing up and taking people away.
Didn't they used to call that a banana republic?
A banana republic.
We used to always hear about a banana republic.
And now
it's kind of interesting.
We're doing that, and there are Americans in this country who think that's okay. That's okay because they call them names, whatever name they want to call them. They committed a crime in this. And the reality is that most of these people who've been detained don't have criminal records, are not criminals. They've served their sentence if they do have some criminal situation that's occurred in their background. But they're not people who should be treated like this, because I can say, me as a Christian who grew up as a Christian, would never allow this. We were not taught to behave like this. And I imagine
you're studying the wrong Bible, my friend. I don't know what the heck Bible you got, but you got the wrong Bible.
The Trump Bible doesn't have those pages in it. They cut that out. I think that's what happened. So but we know that the right way to behave in our community.
So my scenario, getting gas, they pick me up. I don't want to answer any questions. They take me in. I'm going to get an opportunity to call somebody. Once I call that person, is there any kind of, the law is about loopholes. The law is about figuring out the nuance. Yeah. So is there any loophole in the first 24, 48 hours that might be able to jam it up, delay it? Because it's all about delay, and run out the clock. Is there anything people can do in that first 24 to 48 hours?
Not in the situation where the individual actually has a legitimate, or the government may have a legitimate argument that this individual doesn't have status in the country. Okay.
But for instance, though, in that first 24 hours, I talk to a significant other calls you or your organization.
Right.
Once we engage with an attorney, will that put us into a different track, a different path, where maybe they got to deal with you differently than if you're simply flying solo?
No, because any individual who is detained and who doesn't have a removal order, right? Because if that person already had a removal order before, that person would be considered, a more vulnerable individual, because the government can execute that removal order at any point in time. Because
the removal order suggests that it's already gone through the process.
Exactly. Okay. So that person has already had their due process.
Okay.
Right. I'm just gonna, had their due process. A judge rendered a decision based on what happened at that time, and an order was rendered or decided. Okay. And so now this individual, I want to get to that point, but I want to get to another point in how we get here. So let's talk about individuals who came into this country before This is within the confines of Haitians before 2010 when the TPS designation occurred. And so that individual, for one reason or the other, applied for asylum. They did not win their asylum before a judge. The court issued a removal order, right? So now they have a legitimate removal order. They need to leave this country. They don't leave the country, and it just so happens the TPS a designation is now in place. They apply, they're approved, and now they have legal status to be in this country. And they are now working and, living their life, right? Not committing any crimes and living their life. And now the TPS status is going to terminate. That removal order that was there back in 2009 and 2008 never went away. It just was covered by that status.
Kind of like an open permit. Anybody does real estate, you got an open permit, you buy a place, all of a sudden the open permit, if you never shut it,
right,
you still got to deal with the issue.
It still exists,
okay.
right?
Okay.
And so now that individual is, now let's talk about your scenario. That individual is picked up, they run his or hers A number and they find, his A number and they find that this individual has a removal order.
From 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
20 years ago. That individual is very vulnerable to being deported immediately, not having the due process of going before court. That's those situations that are most vulnerable. But then when you have an individual who has never been before a judge, typically what's supposed to happen is once they're detained, if you will, a notice to appear is issued, right? That is the official prosecutorial document that says, okay, well, you are now in removal proceedings. You must present yourself before a court.
And again, putting it back to real estate, you get hit with a lis pendens. You haven't paid your mortgage, you haven't paid your condo association dues. Therefore, they're going to move to take your place, so they notify you.
Exactly.
And then you begin the legal process.
Exactly. And so now, let's say this individual so they're detained now. They call their family members. Small caveat, if you are in a position where your legal status is in limbo, it's good practice to have copies of your documents in a safe place with trusted individuals having access to that, because it's super important for your attorney because it's generally speaking, it's the family members that's contacting the attorney for the individual that's detained.
Does it have to be paper or can it be a photograph?
Photograph, whatever. Some type of, dossier.
Yep.
It makes it a little easier for the attorney to make an assessment, whether they are going to go there, whether they're going to pursue a habeas before a federal court to try to get that person out. It just makes good sense, right? That's like, putting your house in order, right? Folks should know where your documents are, not anybody, but people you trust, okay? And so now that individual, we're going back to the guy, let's call him John Doe. He is now detained. He has now been issued a notice to appear, and now he has to appear before an immigration judge, okay? Generally, maybe within 2 weeks or maybe within a week. And that meet with that judge is essentially for the purposes of evaluating that notice to appear, whether or not that notice to appear and the allegations detailed within it is in fact correct, right? That this individual is not actually a U.S. citizen, but in fact a Haitian or Venezuelan or Honduran or what have you. That this person was in fact did not in fact have legal status or didn't have a valid passport, didn't have a valid visa, didn't have status within the country. All of those allegations the government is putting forth against that individual. The judge is going to figure out whether or not the government got it right. Right? That's the first step, and that's that master calendar hearing.
And this is typically what we saw early on, where families would show up at the courtroom. They'd come walking out. The judge would basically cancel the case. As soon as they walked out the door, ICE agents would grab them, separate them from their family members, their kids, their wives, whatever, and then basically disappear them.
It could be at the master, or it could be at the individual merits hearing, because generally speaking, individuals have 2 hearings before the court.
2 hearings.
2 hearings. The master calendar hearing, which is the initial first meet with the judge.
It's kind of like with the city commission. There's a first reading, and then they vote on the second reading.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to say exactly because I'm going to trust what you're
okay,
saying.
okay.
That's true.
Okay.
No, that's
Not my
correct.
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, they
can
read it
confirm
one
that.
time and then they come back and
I
vote
can
the second
confirm
time.
that.
Okay, you can confirm that,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
And so, at that master calendar hearing, this individual is basically going to be answering to the court. And it's usually about a 10-minute hearing if that individual doesn't have an attorney. At which point in time, the attorney, if there's one, will raise arguments.
So if you're, my understanding, I'm not an attorney, but if you're arrested and you can't afford an attorney for criminal, the court's going to provide one for you. On the immigration side, will the court provide anybody? So
No.
on the immigration side, you're not going to get
Incredible.
public defender,
No.
nothing like that.
Wow.
Which is where your organization comes in.
Right. So our organization doesn't provide court representation.
Okay.
But there are other nonprofits like Catholic Legal Services, and I worked with Catholic Legal Services when I started my career. Americans for Immigrant Justice. They're nonprofits, and they have attorneys who specifically take on cases in this in this field. And there's so many other nonprofits that do that, right? And so, long story short, this individual will then have an opportunity to raise any defenses, whether the NTA, the notice to appear, being defective, whether he or she has an argument like, well, my husband, for example, I'm just giving this as an example. I have a pathway. My husband filed a petition for alien relative for me, and I have a residency pending application. Those are the kind of arguments raised to help curb the removal order. Or the individual might say, well, you know what, I'm fearful for returning to my country and I want to file an asylum application.
And so everybody understands these immigration courts, there's not a jury. This is a decision being made by a judge.
No,
Right.
the judge is hired by the government. The attorney is hired by the government. And if you are an immigrant who doesn't speak the language, you'll have an interpreter, but you're essentially, my opinion,
Right.
the game is stacked, right?
I wouldn't
The
say
game is
railroaded,
stacked.
Oscar, but
Yeah.
The game is stacked, and so it's so imperative for these individuals to have counsel to ensure that their rights are truly being respected.
So I had a conversation with somebody I know, and I was questioning why we're being so aggressive. And you know what I was told, and this sort of shocked me.
Yeah.
The reason nobody can afford real estate in the United States is that we had 20 million illegals come here,
Right.
and they're buying up all the real estate. They're occupying all the real estate. And as a result, that's why rents are going up. That's why real estate prices are going up, which I know is complete hogwash. Why you got Airbnb, people buying Airbnb. You got funds. President Trump's moving against institutional buyers who are rolling up houses, stuff like that. But this is the argument that's being told to me. The reason we need to crack down on immigration is housing costs have gone up because all these people came flooding over the border, even though the border's been shut now since President Trump's been in. And he's been, singing about it everywhere. Is there any reality that all of these people who are being targeted, they are the reason why our real estate costs have gone up so tremendously? The people you deal with, are they dealing in $1 million condos? Have they rolled up retail centers all around South Florida?
And that's the question I wanted to ask you, from the real estate perspective, like, can they even afford it?
Right.
That's what I said.
There are professionals who are working and cannot buy property in Miami and have to move north.
The stereotype is you got four
So it's
people
just-
living in an apartment. They're driving Uber. They're doing this. They're doing that. They might have been a doctor back home. They might have been a scientist back home.
Yeah.
They can't get the accreditation here, so now they're doing whatever they can to make
To
it
survive,
go.
exactly.
And they're living with other people, and they're sending the money back home. How are they running up the real estate costs?
Yeah, I think it's just a narrative that is pushed out. That's pushed out for the sake of appeasing certain viewpoints.
No, it answers questions that people can't answer because if they look at themselves and they say, if they think about it and they say, okay, so my neighbor, 1 out of every 25 people in South Florida is Haitian, and my neighbor who took care of my mom, who saw me during COVID, was the nurse helping me in the hospital, who is my pharmacist, who is, my attorney, who is helping me in every way that they can, who's building my house or building my neighbor's house. I'm going to allow them. It's okay that they are taken away and sent somewhere else, even though they've done nothing wrong. They're here legally. Everything that they've done, they vote because they're citizens. They're doing the right thing, right? They're part of our community, the fabric of our community. If they think about it and they say, I'm allowing this to happen and it's okay, they wouldn't be able to live with themselves. So they create these ideas. Oh, they're buying up all the real estate. They're hurting my animals. They're doing this and that. It's ridiculous.
No. It's eating the dogs, eating
That's
the
right.
pets.
That's right. Which was a horror show kind of idea that was perpetuated by Trump and Vance, and there are still people who are saying these things, and it's convenient. It's convenient lie, the big lie. It's all about trying to make it easy for you to ignore your eyes and ears and understand and be a compassionate person, right? My concern sometimes when I hear the word compassion is it's as though we need to pity people who are in these circumstances. No, we don't need to pity them. We invited them here for decades and decades, going back to Reagan when he was talking about path to citizenship, right? And
my relatives came in the 1890s. They went to Ellis Island when they got here. They're like, oh, we don't want the Polish.
So the Polish. Peter.
They don't. Yeah, they're. They used to call it it was DP, displaced person, but that was like slang in and around Chicago. DP, and they say, well, it stands for dumb Polak.
Right.
This was the way it was done.
Horrible.
This is the way it was done. Every group that comes here before they are integrated into the
Irish,
community,
the
into
Italians,
the society.
Yes.
It always happens the same way,
Everybody.
and now there just happens to be a target on the backs of
it's convenient
of the Haitians.
It's convenient. Venezuelans are in the same situation. Syrians are in the same situation. There are a lot of people in our community who are affected by this and potentially are not going to be here in a few weeks or are going to be in hiding because they have no alternative. They're not going to be able to get food. There's going to be a need for the churches and the community organizations to provide food to places that these individuals can go to get food because they can't go to work, because if they go to work, they get picked up.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why housing is expensive is because there isn't enough of affordable housing.
Housing's expensive because everybody came over the border. They all came over the border and they bid up the prices. That's why you can't afford your rent. It's all the illegals who came over and they bid up your real estate prices. Blame them. It's nothing to do with Wall Street.
Don't clip this.
Nothing to do with Wall Street at all.
Don't clip this.
Nothing to do with investor. Nothing to do with Airbnb. It's the people who came over the border. They are the reason.
He's being satirical here because obviously we don't believe that. But look, the bottom line is it's already 3 o'clock and we have our heart out now. We want to give people information.
No, we don't have a heart out. We can go 5 more minutes. No. Can we go 5 more? We can go 5 more minutes.
All right.
We got to get extra time.
What are you going to do in 5 minutes?
We got extra time. Okay, so here's the takeaway.
Yeah.
The takeaway is we got a lot of people who might be seeing this, watching this, and they're just wondering maybe they are on the short list and being targeted, or maybe they're not and they're outraged. What would be the takeaway? Give us some takeaways so we can feel as if, right now we're rudderless. This whole damn thing is going forward. We got an election coming up in November. What can people on either side, whether they're being targeted or whether or not they feel like they want to do something to change it? Do you guys have any recommendations, any philosophy, call your senator, call our senator. I don't know the last time I saw that guy. Rick Scott, I don't know what he's doing, but what can we do on both sides?
Yeah, that's disheartening that you said that, because that's not what elected officials, that's not the rhetoric that we should have for elected officials. The rhetoric that we should have for our elected officials is that they're available, I see them, or they're late to the party, but they come out. They speak out on the issues, like they care. Mm-hmm. That's the rhetoric. That's the narrative we should have about our elected officials, that they care. Mm-hmm. But that's not what we have right now. Mm-hmm. And that's problematic. Mm-hmm. But, from the standpoint of individuals who are in a place where they have temporary protected status, mm-hmm. or they have any questions related to their immigration status, mm-hmm. it's imperative that you speak with an attorney. And it's not because I'm an attorney I'm telling you this. It's because you need to know what potential pathways you have. Mm-hmm. You also need to know that there may be individuals who are unscrupulous. Mm-hmm. That's a big word for saying individuals who just want to take your money because they know that you're in a vulnerable state. Okay. And they'll tell you, well, file this application, file that application, and you'll be just fine. Mm-hmm. The problem with that situation is that not every application is appropriate for every applicant. There must be a consultation, must be a review and analysis to ensure that whatever decision you may choose to make as it relates to filing this document or that document, you understand the risk.
Sure.
Right? You understand the risk and you are well advised about the decision and the position that you're going to take. And so with that being said, it's important that you speak with a competent immigration
How do
attorney.
people figure that out? Can they go to like floridabar.org?
Absolutely.
So if you go to Florida Bar, everybody, I think it's FLABAR.org. Go there, type in the attorney. Just make sure that they have a license. This is South Florida. People tend to do a little bit of shady things. FLABAR.org, or look up Florida Bar. There's an attorney profile. Type in that person's name. Make sure they actually got a law license, because they might have a law license, but it might be in a different country, a different place. It could be an imaginary place like Oscar's Dungeons and Dragons World. It could be anywhere. Go to floridabar.org to look them up.
That's absolutely correct, spot on. And that's not even for immigration. That's for anything. Every attorney who is barred and who is in good standing, because you must be in good standing with the Florida Bar, you will find them on that website. So it's you can do that. It's super simple and super easy. Yeah. But from the standpoint of individuals who need consultation, the Haitian Lawyers Association will provide free consultations for individuals who are in need related to immigration, related to estate planning, because we didn't really get into that, but estate planning is super important, right? And that's for everyone, whether you're an immigrant and need immigrant, care, what have you. But for everyone, anyone can suffer from a cardiac arrest, God forbid, and renders that person incapacitated. So what about your assets? How are things going to move? So, considering a power of attorney, considering a nomination of guardianship, just considering trust and wills, all of those are important conversations and investments that is in your best interest. So that's just, a public service announcement to look into that. But for those individuals who have a very limited time as it relates to their TPS status, getting that consultation with an attorney is very important. Secondly, looking into different ways to protect your assets. That's very important as well. Staying calm. We don't want individuals doing and behaving and acting in ways that are traumatic and excessive, right? The help is there. And then lastly, as it relates to for our community members who are United States citizens and who have the power of the vote, it is in fact a powerful tool, the power of the vote. And I think it's just a moment for us to sit down and think about who are we voting into office. Right. You can attempt to contact Rick Scott, Senator Rick Scott. You can attempt to contact Senator Ashley Moody, who was up for re-election in November. You can attempt to contact. You might get a massive. You might get a what do they call it? The response, the email that responds is like a automatic. You might get an auto response, so they responded to you. You might get that, but the power of the vote is super important, and so don't give it away so easily. Ask those tough questions, and that's for all of us. Ask those tough questions about why is it, or what is your stance on this or that. We know that Senate Bill 4814, which is a bill that was pushed forth and passed the House, and now it's before the Senate. And this bill, it targets and specifically addresses the TPS for Haitians, and it extends it for 3 years. We need those senators to speak on it, make a decision, whether you agree or you're not. So we know where you stand.
But we have more pressing topics. We got to talk about the 2020 election. That's definitely much more pressing than anything we're discussing here.
To close out, what is the number?
I'm being sarcastic again.
What is the number to reach you?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. 561-861 6894, 561-861-6894. And if I may, can I just say it in Creole?
Please.
Okay. Bonsoir tout le monde. Nom c'est avocat Emanuela Telfort. Moi c'est président association avocat haïtien. Si ou c'est un monde qui besoin aide légale ou besoin consultation, pas peur. Relais numéro ça m'a ba ou là. Nous association disposée pour capable aider avec consultation gratis. Numéro c'est 561 861 6894. Ma bali encore. 561 861 6894 ou mettre voyons un texte pour dire moins besoin en consultation, n'a prélé ou pour faire consultation. Merci beaucoup.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And you mentioned some politicians. Carlos Jimenez, who's a congressman, said it would be a huge mistake to deport Haitians.
He did say that.
And we should follow that kind of idea to protect our community, protect our brothers and sisters, our family.
And what is the
our
urgency?
neighbors.
Why do we have to rush this? If you want to remove somebody, go through the process.
Yeah.
That's right.
Drag it out. There's no reason because of a 2,000 person a day quota that all of a sudden we got a bunch of wild people out there.
But also follow the rules, because we had rules in place and people got the carpet pulled out from under them because they were meeting with the officials that they had to meet on a regular basis. That's where they were picked up, many of them. Imagine that. You're doing what you've been doing for years because that's what you're required to do to keep your status. And one day you show up and the judge says, you know what, you're done. We reject this asylum case and you're out of here. And then they pick you up and you're gone. Nobody knows anything about you.
And I would just sort of suggest I was a journalist for 13 years. After that, I wrote a column for the Miami Herald. I wrote a column for the Real Deal, all related to real estate. What I can tell you is when you speak, people listen. If you're quiet, and that's the initial reaction a lot of people take. Don't say anything you want to be on the radar. I would tell you the opposite. Get on the radar, especially if you have all of your status in place. Get on the radar because other people out there are thinking the same thing you're thinking. And too many of us are quiet about these shenanigans that are going on. And if you do have a voice, if you are opposed to this cowboy attitude, and you know, I'm not taking a shot at Texas, but this wild person attitude taking these people down, speak up, let people know there's other people who will agree with you. Remember, they come with one, and then later on, they're coming for you. So let it be known, everybody. That would be my advice. And that's where you got the First Amendment. Freedom of speech to speak against the government when they're doing something wrong. I'm a big believer in the First Amendment. I say anything, everything, but speak up, everybody, please, just to get the word out there so we can wake up our Senator Rick Scott up there in Washington, have him finally do something for a while and step up and actually defend some of the people who are so crucial to what is the South Florida community.
Well, Emanuela, we want to thank you for coming today and for helping us understand these big and complicated issues because they're hard to put into context. And
they're pretty simple.
I'm not as smart as Peter, I got to say.
Everybody knows that.
Peter got all the way through high school, so he's much smarter than most of us.
And I picked bananas at one point. I had a job picking bananas.
Right. But thank you again. Come back next week. We're going to give you great stories about Miami and all the successes people are having here.
And we're going to cut through the hyperbole and let you know it's reality or if it's just smoke and mirrors.
See you at the next D&D convention.